You and your child eat the same foods. So why do you gain weight while they develop autism? The answer lies in one tiny organelle you've probably never heard of, your mitochondria. Hey everyone, I'm Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is part of my question and answer series. Why one diet can cause autism in one person and diabetes in another. So let's get to the question. You've laid out this compelling case that insulin resistance is driving everything from obesity to autism through mitochondrial dysfunction. But here's what I'm curious about. You mentioned that whether it manifests as obesity, diabetes, depression, or autism depends on genetic vulnerabilities. Can you walk me through the actual cellular mechanisms? What's happening inside the mitochondria when someone consumes seed oils or excess glucose that makes one person develop autism while another gets diabetes? Well, that's very comprehensive. Yes, and it's actually the right question. Not just what is happening, but why it manifests differently in different people. This takes us into the realm of bioenergetics, oxidative stress, and genomic expression, all centered in the mitochondria. So let's walk through this step by step. First, let's talk about the mitochondrial overload from glucose and seed oils. So when a person chronically consumes high levels of refined carbohydrates, which leads to hyperglycemia and hyperinsulinemia, and seed oils full of omega-6 PUFAs, right? Polyunsaturated fatty acids, which leads to lipid peroxidation and oxidative stress, you end up with too much fuel entering the mitochondria, which are designed to deal with glucose and fatty acids only, and too little capacity to handle it. The result? Mitochondria generate excessive reactive oxygen species, ROSs, right, which are part of the oxidative stress issues, damaged mitochondrial membranes and DNA, so that they don't reproduce properly, that they don't generate new mitochondria properly, and impaired ATP, which is the energy production within the cell. So it breaks the engine that keeps you guys running. Dr. Chris Palmer in Brain Energy describes this as a bioenergetic bottleneck. Cells can't meet energy demands, and this triggers dysfunction. Okay? So why different cells respond differently? Well, every cell has mitochondria, but different cell types have different energy demands, detox capabilities, and epigenetic vulnerability. Here's what that means in practice. In brain cells, especially in developing children, the brain uses 20% of total bodily energy. Neurons have limited antioxidant defenses. Seed oils, which are high in linoleic acid, integrate into the cell membranes, making them fragile. Glial cells, astrocytes and microglia, become overactivated, triggering neuroinflammation. The outcome is synaptic pruning errors, neurotransmitter imbalances, and immune activation, which leads to features of autism spectrum disorders or ADHD. Okay? And that's by research done by Dr. Palmer. In muscle and liver cells, high insulin levels promote glucose storage and fat accumulation. Over time, the cells resist insulin signal to prevent further energy influx. The mitochondria burn less fat, which leads to lipid accumulation. That's fat, right? Metabolic inflexibility. The outcome? Insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver, among other things. Genetic and epigenetic determinants. So your genetics determine mitochondrial enzyme variants, for example, complex 1 defects, which are linked to neurodevelopmental delays. Brain sensitivity to oxidative stress, for example, what your glutathione pathway and polymorphisms are like. And variants in lipid metabolism or insulin signaling. For example, ApoE4, FTO, IRS1, these are all things that the doctors potentially look for. So two people eating the same toxic diet Person A with mitochondrial DNA mutations or impaired glutathione recycling, they develop autism or bipolar disorder potentially, right? Where person B with an IRS1 mutation and poor AMPK signaling develops diabetes and obesity, right? Same insult, different vulnerability, different disease. Next, you have chronic stress loops. This sets off self-reinforcing loops of issues. You get oxidative stress, which damages the mitochondria. Damaged mitochondria produce less ATP and more ROSs, right? Reactive oxygen species. This low energy plus high inflammation from the ROSs creates cellular dysfunction. This cellular dysfunction spreads systematically, throughout your entire body. In brain tissue, this leads to neurodevelopmental issues, mood disorders. In the pancreas and liver, this leads to insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome. And in your gut barrier, it leads to food intolerances and autoimmunity problems. Right? Same insult to the body, multiple symptoms, multiple different diseases. So there is a unified metabolic theory of disease, right? That we like to talk about, and that Dr. Palmer advocates very highly. And I appreciate all his work he's done in this area. So dietary inputs. Excess carbs lead to mitochondrial glucose overload. Seed oils lead to membrane instability and additional ROSs, right? Nutrient deficiencies, not enough magnesium, B vitamins, and so on, leads to impaired mitochondrial repair. See how that all just builds upon each other. The core damage, mitochondrial dysfunction, which leads to an energy crisis, right? Your body runs on the ATP from your mitochondria. The mitochondria aren't working properly. You don't have as much energy. Tissue-specific expression, this modulated by different genes in development. In the brain, this can be seen as autism, ADHD, anxiety, Alzheimer's. In the liver or pancreas, you see this as diabetes and fatty liver. In the muscle, you see this as sarcopenia and insulin resistance. In the endothelium, that's the gut lining the gut, cells lining the gut. Endothelium. I'm sorry, that's the heart. You see that as heart disease. And immune cells, you see that as autoimmunity, right? Issues. Apologize. I screwed up on that one. Okay, so why this matters. The mitochondria are not just powerhouses, they're the gatekeepers of cell survival and function when they fail. You don't just get tired, you get sick in the way your weakest system breaks. This is why metabolic therapy, for example, ketogenic and carnivore diets, work across so many conditions. It relieves pressure on the mitochondria and restores homeostasis. Alright, everyone, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the appropriate section. We do appreciate that. We are a community here. If there are things you'd like me to work on for you to help answer some questions, leave me a note, and we'll add that to the schedule as soon as possible. Okay? In the meantime, if you haven't done so, like, subscribe, and share this video with somebody you know who might need it. It helps the channel a great deal, and it also helps other people. So thank you so much.